On March 25th, 2025, American singer-songwriter Chappell Roan gave an interview to the Call Her Daddy podcast, and it rocked the world. In this interview, Roan said that kids were disgusting avatars of Satan, that no one should have children, and if you do, you're an idiot and you're wasting your life. Oh wait, no, she didn't say anything like that. Hello, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and sometimes I can have a flair for the dramatic. But to be fair, I'm not alone in this. Like, seriously, this was so nothing, and yet how many videos have been made about it? But what I really appreciate about this conservative freakout is how no one can engage honestly with what Chappell actually said. Though, to be fair, some are better than others. But we'll get to that. First, I want to say Chappell's interview was the first Call Her Daddy episode I ever watched, and though I did come away thinking Chappell isn't as polished as other celebrities, I'm not really sure that's a bad thing. We should value authenticity. But anyway, another thing I want to note is that all but one person in this video doesn't have kids. So this is a 20-something woman without kids being asked about kids and consequently being judged by other 20-something women without kids. With one exception. And that one exception is something. But we'll get there. First, let's have a listen to what Chappell actually said.
Okay, are you still close with your friends from back home?
Yeah, I am. They're really awesome. We have such different lives. They are, a lot of them are married with children, and like they have their own houses, and to me, I'm like, I don't know when that's gonna happen for me. Like, I don't know when that is realistic, if ever. So,
do you want that?
Like, get married and I don't know. Part of me is like, is it even gonna be legal to marry like my wife one day, you know? I don't know. So, but kids, all of my friends who have kids are in hell. I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
It's not looking too good.
I'm like, why did my parents do that? I'm the oldest of 4. My mom had me at 23.
And later on, she clarifies,
but they're in hell because they love their kids.
And I would like to note that this interview is over an hour long, so this was a really brief blip. And yet, it really got the alarm bells ringing for conservatives who apparently think this is Chappell Roan saying people shouldn't have kids and thus influencing young women not to have kids. Personally, I listened to this and that's it. She was asked a question, she answered. It's an interview of Chappell Roan, not a mandate from on high. She's not giving advice, she's answering a question. And yet...
And I think Chappell Roan in particular has the worst point of reference for giving any sort of commentary on motherhood as a young woman who's in Hollywood, who is a pop star, and who also happens to be lesbian. So I don't know if I would go to her for her opinion on motherhood and what it's like to have children. What sucks in realizing that is, of course, Chappell Roan is a pop star, which means she's influencing a lot of young women in particular who are looking to her for everything. They're looking to her for her makeup and her fashion, but also for her takes on politics and culture. And that involves her take on motherhood, which she is referring to as hell. I just don't think it's an accurate depiction or characterization of motherhood whatsoever.
That is conservative YouTuber Amala Ekpunobi, and I really hope she stretched before doing all that reaching.
I'm sure she met a friend who has kids or a few friends who have kids. She went over to their house. They're having a particularly tough time. The kid's throwing a tantrum. They look exhausted. They just had a baby. They're getting up in the middle of the night to breastfeed. And then Chappell Roan walks away from that in her single pop star life and goes, oh my gosh, being a mother is hell. Then she goes on Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast, which is a podcast all about, women taking on this masculinized version of what womanhood can be in the modern day and age. And she says motherhood is hell. It's really that simple. So what she essentially said is, shout out to all of my friends who are mothers. I know you guys are miserable and your children are making you live in hell. So if you're one of Chappell Roan's friends who has kids and it is in fact not hell, you're being characterized as a mother who hates the position that she's in and hates taking care of children. Oops. So I have a strong feeling that not only is the anecdotal information that Chappell is sharing on Call Her Daddy untrue, but also there's not a lot of data to support the conclusion that she's coming to with that anecdotal information.
Yeah. It was an interview. The host asked a question, Chappell answered. This is so weird, but Amala isn't the only one who decided to bring out studies to prove that parents are actually happier than people without kids, which, okay. Chappell didn't say, statistically, if you have kids, you will be in hell. She just shared her observations of her friends. And her friends know her. I highly doubt they're surprised to hear her observation of parenthood. Amala also decided to point out Chappell's hypocrisy in wanting other people to be single while not being single herself.
So there you go. Chappell wants you to be single, but she's not single. A lot of feminist man haters want you to hate men. They have men. A lot of these leftists out in the streets who are crying about white supremacy and the inherent racism of white people, they're going home to white men. You heard it here first, folks. And that's just a small example, but it is a blatant inconsistency. And if you can recognize that, we should maybe look back at her other statements and see what we can glean from them. And this is not to say that Chappell is always wrong or inconsistent. It's just to say that maybe she didn't really hit the mark with this one.
How did we go from an interview with a musician to feminists want you to hate men, but they're dating men, and leftists want you to hate white people, but they're going home to white people? Is Amala okay? Anyway, Chappell wasn't saying you should be single forever. She was saying you should stop dating until you're comfortable being single.
But I am pro-single. Everyone should be single. I'm serious. Be single. Stop dating. Be single. Have a great time alone. Find out for yourself if you can 100% be okay alone before you date. That's what I found out. I had a great time when I was single. And I know that I will be okay. And now I have an awesome time that I'm with someone.
That is not hard to understand, and honestly, that's good advice. Anyway, that was it for Amala. Let's see what Brett Cooper's replacement on the comments section, Reagan Conrad, has to say.
All of my friends back home are also married with kids too. Almost all of them under the age of 4. And they are all full of joy and immensely grateful to have the privilege of raising children.
That's great. Chappell didn't say all parents everywhere are miserable.
She always talks about the Midwest specifically like they are these small-minded group of peasants, and now she's in LA and so worldly and they just get it there. I mean, it's nauseating. And it's also funny because the LA socialites and celebs are the fulfilled ones. Let's just ignore their usage and obsession of and SSRIs and sexual promiscuity and clubbing and new age BS, all meant to try to fill a void and be happy and complete.
Midwesterner checking in to say that Midwesterners also like to go to the club and party. Honestly, the pressure to drink in Michigan is way more intense than anything I've experienced on the coast. And people in the Midwest also take SSRIs when needed. They are also not all married Christian parents. And where did Reagan get any of that? In LA, they just get it in what Chappell said. Chappell actually spoke fondly of her Midwest friends, but anyway.
Why we have to politicize everything, especially motherhood. It angers me at a biological level, I guess.
And who made it political?
And I hate that our generation is like, well, unless we have our lives completely perfectly set up, then no kids.
This is such a selfish mentality.
It's so selfish. And you become less selfish when you become a mom.
Exactly. And so it's like, if you are short on money, it's going to force you to like find other ways to provide and take care of your family, which is a really rewarding thing.
Right.
In my day, conservatives were all about people not having kids they couldn't afford, but now you should do it anyway because it will make you less selfish and it will be more rewarding when you figure out how to live frugally. I'd like to remind everyone that none of these women have kids except for one, and that one is not Reagan. She is advocating for people to do something she hasn't, which I can't help but notice that conservatives love to do. Think you can't afford kids? Have them anyway. You'll be less selfish and it will be so rewarding when you figure out how to feed them on a shoestring budget. Brett Cooper kind of touches on this as well, but we'll get there in a moment. Speaking of which, let's see what the former host of the comments section has to say.
And from afar, at least, it feels hurtful that is how she allegedly genuinely sees her closest friends, that they are just miserable people who are in hell because of their miserable choices, and she, as Chappell Roan, is wiser and far above that as this childless 27-year-old Hollywood punk drag pop star, that she apparently knows everything about the world.
She actually didn't say anything like that, and Brett doesn't know Chappell, let alone Chappell's friends, so it's even weirder that she's assuming what those friends are feeling. Again, Chappell's friends know her, they're probably not going to be surprised by what she said. Curiously, both Reagan and Brett compared Chappell's interview to Ellen Pompeo's, and yeah, I'm not surprised that a 50-something woman with 3 kids has different ideas about parenthood than a 20-something woman without kids. Anyway, apparently this interview also picked up outside of conservative YouTube.
But even though she is all over the mainstream media and all over our Google search engines, she really made waves on TikTok. Like, that is really where the conversation brewed, where mom after mom after mom was using her soundbite to then post videos and photos of their life and their children and basically say, like, I promise you, Chappell, like, this isn't hell.
Is it just me, or is that weird? Chappell was talking about her friends, specifically about her friends with young kids, and I also doubt her friends would say they're in hell. That's probably just what it looks like to Chappell. I don't understand why people are taking this personally, but it does occur to me that perhaps they're not, and it's just a trending sound and they're going for engagement. Brett, of course, takes it very seriously.
Since apparently one of the world's biggest pop star was getting on the world's biggest female podcast and saying, yeah, you're all miserable, you're all in hell, haven't met a happy one, you all look terrible.
That's not what she said. I'm really starting to feel concerned about media comprehension. But then, there's no real benefit to engaging with something in good faith. You get a lot more clicks and engagement with drama and negativity, which is likely why Brett titled her video, Chappell Roan says all parents are miserable. But anyway, this is actually all Chappell's fault.
Chappell saying that her close friends are miserable and airing out their dirty laundry and that she's never met a happy parent ever. I mean, that is more of an attack. That is putting words in people's mouths, and they do have a right to respond, even if it's not directly towards her.
Brett is literally putting words in Chappell's mouth. Chappell didn't say every parent everywhere was miserable and regretting their life choices. She wasn't attacking anyone, she was answering a question asked of her. And of course, people are free to respond if they want, but that doesn't change the fact that she wasn't talking about people she's never met. Anyway, remember when Reagan was talking about how, having kids will make you less selfish and it's so rewarding to figure things out? Well, Brett agrees that the US could do better when it comes to parents-ish.
And I am not talking about universal health care, because that is what people always go to. They say, I can't have kids because I don't have universal health care. That's where everybody's minds go to. My mind goes to tax credit for parents and the betterment of our school system so that they feel confident putting their kids in schools, the strengthening of the economy to make life easier for families, a less bloated and government-invested healthcare system, which I think would make things a lot easier for families. That is all stuff that we can do to make this easier, to hopefully make parents even happier.
I'm so curious about what conservatives mean when they say a strong economy, because even in a strong economy, people can still lose their jobs, and the safety net in the US has a lot of holes in it. And perhaps Brett doesn't realize this, but health insurance is often tied to one's job, which makes it even worse when unemployed because then you also lose your insurance. And is that really it? Tax credits, betterment of school systems, whatever that would look like, since Brett is in favor of the closure of the Department of Education, less government investment in healthcare, again, what would that look like? Less bloated government, and what would that look like? And that's what will make life easier for parents? Well, anyone with kids, please feel free to tell me if any of the above would make your life easier as a parent. Anyway, Brett gets weird again.
I mean, I literally want to send this to Chappell Roan. I want to send this to this USA Today writer and just be like, just take a listen. Like, I don't care if you have kids, but you should understand that this is probably why you feel that tension, why you feel so upset with this conversation, and why you are so quick to paint this insecurity onto other people. You should evaluate everything going on and figure out what is actually going to drive me. Beyond just being a hot single lesbian chick in New York City.
What tension? It occurs to me that Brett talks a lot, and if you don't stop to think about what she's saying, she can almost sound like she's saying something, but really she's making up a straw man to argue against. Which is weird, but I actually saved the worst for last. It's been a while, but longtime subscribers might remember Dear Sister, aka Christiana. She is married with 5 kids, and she also had some thoughts.
You may have seen Chappell Roan talking about how all of her friends in their 20s who are parents are in hell. Now, ignoring the horror and the hubris of that statement for a moment, I'd be willing to bet that she also has friends in her 20s who are not parents. Friends who are partying at the clubs, addicted to OnlyFans and porn, mentally ill, numbing their soulless existence with drugs, promiscuous, contracting STDs, being sexually assaulted, stuffing down the anguish of their abortions, masking their pain and running from their fears with cheap sex and cheap laughs. And she didn't describe those people as being in hell. From the outside, that kind of a lifestyle can appear glitz and glam and downright enviable. But on the inside, it's hollow. It's devoid of purpose. It's downright dead. All of that acting out can look real fun. It can even feel like it for a time, but we know enough about the human psyche to know that it's a sure sign that something's wrong. It's a scream for help. Parenthood, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. On the outside, it can look like death. You're physically giving up of yourself for others. Your selfishness is dying. Your pride is suffocating. Your blind spots are being exposed. But on the inside, there are new beginnings. There are beautiful character qualities forming, new things sprouting up. There's real purpose and fulfillment and joy being established. Why? Actual purpose and fulfillment is found on the other side of self-denial. Appearances aren't everything. Human beings have known this forever. We just recently, collectively, forgot.
Ma'am? Are you okay? That was a whole lot of weird assumptions. It almost seems like Christiana is personally offended, even though, again, Chappell didn't say half of what these folks apparently heard. But seriously, what was Christiana hoping to achieve by saying that parenthood can look like death? Who is she trying to talk to? So, final thoughts. I want to talk about this because it's just weird. The assumptions, the assertions, the drama. Yes, Chappell Roan is famous. Yes, sometimes people look to famous people for guidance, but this is just weird. Nowhere did she say people shouldn't have kids. Nowhere did she say having kids is bad. She answered a question, and drama ensued for no reason. Well, actually, I think the reason is that anytime someone speaks about having kids and it's not all sunshine and roses, conservatives go into a tailspin about the birth rate and try to do damage control, which honestly just makes them look even more suspicious. Why do they care so much about how Chappell feels about her parent friends, and why do they have to make things up she never said? Is this really supposed to convince young women that having kids is actually the best thing they can do? Anyway, this is coming from someone who's not really into Chappell's music, and from what I've seen of her, I find her a bit abrasive, and that's okay. You're not going to agree with everyone. Everyone is not going to be your cup of tea. And I think we all know that. We just throw it out the door for engagement. Anyway, that's it for this video. Please let me know if you've changed your mind about having kids after watching the... Was this supposed to be pronatalist propaganda? Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.